What's up, witches? It's the Lunar Priest, and today we're going to be exploring Mercury signs. But before we get started, make sure that you've already subscribed to my channel because it really helps me to continue making content. Can you guess where my Mercury placement is? I promise I won't be this crazy the whole entire video. But seriously, guess my Mercury placement. I won't tell you in the video, as I always disclose my signs in these types of videos. Go ahead and guess, leave it in the comment below, tell me yours, I just want to know, If you're here for a specific sign, I have timestamps in the description box, so you can jump right to your sign, girl, right to your man sign, right to your girl sign. So go ahead and do that, but without further ado, let's just hop right into the video. Starting off with our first house, first sign, Aries. So Mercury in Aries, hello, is all about being very forward. We might talk before we thought, if you know what I'm saying. We might really be bold, we might be articulate, we might be more prone to arguing, we might be more prone to debate. We might want to collaborate but be more in charge in that process of collaboration. We're very quick-witted, quick to respond. We want to get the job done, you know. That Aries Mercury is a good collaborator if you let them express themselves and be powerful, but those arguments can get a little wild. Moving on to Mercury in Taurus, this can be a very grounded and beautified placement to have because Mercury in Taurus is like, I'm grounded, I know what I want, but there's also that Venusian aspect of Taurus that's very lovey and it wants to exchange touch. It might be more of a physical communicator, if you know what I'm saying. Mercury in Taurus wants to collaborate in a very slow and structured way. It doesn't want to rush things. They might be slower speakers. They might have charming voices. Since Taurus also is correspondent to the Hierophant tarot card, I like to think of them as like channels. They might be known for their ability to really just say that thing that hits different. They always have this intuitive flow coming through. They don't feel the need to, that's why they don't feel the need to like rush the process. They're open to talking about a variety of subjects, about exploring and collaborating upon a variety of things, but they do want to just make sure it's grounded and realistic, whatever they are spending their time and efforts on. Moving on to Mercury in Gemini. Mercury in Gemini can be very, well, first of all, it's a super benefic or well-suited placement because Mercury rules Gemini. Gemini is all about processing. As you can see, even the way I'm talking, picking up that pace, being able to quickly think of things, intuitively navigating and adapting accordingly to the conversations or the vibes at hand. Having a Mercury in Gemini placement makes you a great communicator, makes you a great spokesperson, makes you highly able to help other people sort out their thought process. So you could be the friend that, like, when people open up to you, you feel like you're constantly giving advice, you feel like you're constantly helping them just like sort through things and maybe like helping them to guide themselves type beat. But that doesn't mean that you don't struggle from like stage fright or anxiousness or things like that. Exploring a variety of topics, studying many things. You may be great at studying things. You may be great with helping others navigate, again, like I was talking about, their personal studies and crafts and interests. You're highly adaptable, if you will. So your communication style can really be switched out. You might not have a set nature other than just being kind of highly communicative in general. Moving on to Mercury in Cancer. This is a very psychic placement. This can be kind of difficult to navigate because you're highly empathic most likely, and you're able to really put yourself in other people's shoes and take people's feelings into consideration. So it can really sting if other people aren't doing the same for you. So if you're working in group, you're having a conversation and people are just like bulldozing through, that's always kind of hard maybe for you to work with because it's like it feels more personal. But also, by the same token, a Mercury in Cancer is probably going to be like, oh my god, great at decorating or setting the space or the vibe of things, like holding a circle, like a women's circle, or holding space and feeling feelings with another person is like such a strong suit for a Mercury in Cancer because there's this innate ability to tend to and nourish and listen and sit with and emotionally process with that Mercury Cancer. So again, it's not super versatile. It can be, obviously anything can be, and other signs and aspects are going to tell you more about that placement. But when it comes to just Mercury and Cancer in general, it's like you're probably good at like girl talk. You're good at like discussing more emotionally driven topics rather than like super logical things. And that's not even always true, but I'm kind of just trying to give this Cancerian gist of things. Also being drawn to more like softer and not as like constrictive collaborative efforts is better for you. Like you don't want to have these harsh deadlines and like quotas to be meeting. It can be more like a loving collaborative experiences jive more well for you. Then Mercury in Leo, this is a pretty cool placement because we literally have this androgynous, very programmable, highly communicative planet mixed with this sun energy. So it's very radiant and beaming, and it's able to really capture people's attention. Things being directed back at you and you leading by example and giving people examples of your own experiences to like guide them. This focus on you really comes to mind when I think of Mercury in Leo, because it's very much about thinking about, okay, so what's the root of things? What's the center of things? What is creating this whole like life cycle of whatever we're talking about? Right? We have that like sun energy. We have this like what's obvious, what's in the way that's obvious. So that Leo Mercury is very aware of what stops the flow, what stops the process, and it's likely to guide based on its own experience, based on like a follow your heart type of vibe. Like they might be naturally like, you got to do what you love, you got to follow your heart. They're more inclined to join groups or collaborate based upon things that are very heart-led, that are very performy, that are about like an inspiration and guidance and self-help and self-love and things like that. The Mercury in Leo can really thrive in that type of environment. Even like developing habits like, or developing hobbies and talents like singing or playing music or method acting or role play, cosplay, like all those types of things can be really great for Mercury in Leo to kind of play in the space of communication and performing. Then Mercury in Virgo, this is a very, very, very specific type of placement. It is well suited because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, and Virgo is a very feminine, grounded, straightforward, like let's do things right, let's do things clearly and logically, let's just like get this thing done in the best way possible. It's kind of elitist, if you will. And we mix that with the Mercury. The Mercury is very programmable and it's already comfortable with that Virgo energy. So someone with a Mercury Virgo is highly adaptable, and they're likely to really spearhead the project. They're likely to really be a solid player if it comes to a collaborative thing. They're likely to be someone, when you communicate with them, it's a fast conversation because they're able to really just drive it home, send it clearly, portray their message. They're really clear-headed, if you will, and they're really able to see what's stopping the clarity, what isn't true, what needs more research, what needs more dialing in. They're likely to really perfect their way of doing things. They could be very articulate in the first place, like they really enunciate all of their things well. They're clear speakers, clear people, if you will. Then Mercury in Libra. Mercury in Libra is a really beautiful, I think well-suited sign. It's kind of a dreamy, loving, people-pleasy type of placement to have. So I would say having Mercury in Libra could be really useful if you're dealing with a lot of people or with the public. You're likely to be very charming. You're likely to really be able to woo people. There could be this natural aphrodisiac-esque thing about you where you are good at just being like loved in a way. You're probably also loving, like you can make people feel really warm and welcome if you like. The only problem with the Mercury in Libra is there could be this lack of checks and balances. Even though Libra is about balance, I would say that when it's unevolved, it can almost be like, oh, just go with the flow. And then Mercury is very go with the flow too. So let's say you're in a group collaborative effort, or you're working with someone and they start to really drive it this direction. You might not be the person to put the stop to it. You might be like, oh, I see what's going wrong here, but you're more likely to let those things slide. Whereas if we had a more dominant, Mercury sign, we would be more able to like cut it off, unless you have, this is where it gets, when we have that evolved Libra, we might come up with a really compelling, beautified, even maybe rose colored or sugar coated lens as to how we direct the conversation, the vibe, the project, the initiative, the intention, the method back into a state of balance. So they can be really great checks and balances if they're mindful. They also could be really well suited to discuss partnership and things like that, like a relationship counselor could have a great Mercury in Libra or 7th house placement. Then Mercury in Scorpio, this is a really fun one to decipher for me because since it's so programmable, Mercury as a planet mixed with that scorpionic, there's hidden realms, there's the taboo, there's the secrecy, the Mars and Pluto energy in there. It's kind of like a shot in the dark almost. Like they could be really unsuspecting, like you could be talking and giving all this information to a Mercury in Scorpio and never suspect that, you know, they are a Mercury in Scorpio. It doesn't show as much. They're very quiet or able to listen. People want to spill and share their secrets to the Mercury in Scorpio. They seem to be very receptive, but they could be like judging you, to be honest, like fully in their head. But that doesn't mean they're not going to help you, and that definitely doesn't mean they're going to tell your secrets. Just saying that they could have all their own judgments, but they're going to keep that to themselves and let you go about the conversating and let you lead it and keep their power more within, and then gauge what they're willing to give in the conversation, the collaboration, or the partnership, or the thing that you guys are working on together. So Mercury in Scorpio does have this charming, again, like that aphrodisiac effect on people because it's very like, it rules the reproductive organs or the genitals and things like that. It's like very related to our sexuality, so we might spill things that we kind of keep hidden otherwise to the Mercury in Scorpio. If we're talking about conversation, we might be more willing to discuss like taboo things and things that are something we don't normally talk about with the Mercury in Scorpio, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do it back. And it also doesn't mean, you know, that they're just like naturally prone to those conversations themselves. But they're probably open-minded and good people to navigate those darker corners of our minds with if it's permitting. But other than that, the Mercury in Scorpio is really able to dive deep and see into the conversations and the connections that it builds and really decipher a whole person just by maybe a sentence or two. Like they're very intuitive, very able to take it all into consideration and then act from there. And if a Mercury in Scorpio is opening up to you, don't take it for granted, because it's a really cool opportunity to see into that person's life where they might not be someone who often opens up in that kind of way. A lot of their emotions may not always bleed through their communications. Mercury in Sagittarius is a very wild and expansive sign. We want to learn all about the chosen subject. We might really dive deep into a craft, into a hobby, into a group of people. We might really want to submerge ourselves in different forms of communication, collaboration. Traveling might also, like learning other languages, could really compel us and be a part of our experience in this lifetime. Mercury in Sagittarius is willing to party and sing and have fun and dance and like talk to you at 2 a.m. and it's also willing to like be in the classroom and like take on learning palm reading. I don't know. So it's all over the place, and the one thing is that it's always going, the fire is always burning with the Mercury in Sagittarius. It's always seeking, always wanting to know more. Not always about one specific thing, but about many things. And they're just, I would say, a good time overall. And also just being like kind of fired up is important for the Mercury in Sagittarius. If you're fired up about something and can get them excited, they're probably more likely to keep talking to you. Then moving on to Mercury in Capricorn. Mercury in Cap is definitely a very logical, structured, let's get to the top, let's move. If you're collaborating or in this like thing with the Mercury in Capricorn, they're very likely to be like solid in that you can you can look at their method and apply it and use it successfully, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily have it your back, because Capricorns they tend to be a little bit more frugal, if you will. They tend to really be aware of the resources at hand, their ability, their margin of growth available. They're not necessarily super moral. Like, I like to think about how Libra, Virgo, like that area has a lot of like right and wrong and justifications, whereas Capricorn is more focused on like the mountaintop and how to get to the mountaintop. It's not really about like, well, what's most ethical? It's like, what's sustainable for me? How am I going to get to the top? That's what really drives the Capricorn nature. So what they deem fair and just isn't always going to be in like another person's highest and best, because they really do look out for number one, and that's why they tend to be very successful, monetarily inclined people, is because they're looking out for themselves and they're really aware of how to grow and climb. And yeah, they keep that to themselves. So with the Mercury in Cap, they're great leaders, great business people. They're great at financial advice. They're good people to replicate, if you will. And it can be kind of lonely for the Mercury in Capricorn, because it can seem like people can't keep up with you. Not many people think in the ways that you do, or as driven as you, so that can be kind of difficult, because it could seem like other people waste more time compared to you. But at the end of the day, they are I would say they're great communicators, and they're inclined toward success more than any other Mercury sign. And they're usually pretty knowledgeable on things that take a lot of time to do, like, I don't know, like gardening or something. They could have some bit of knowledge about certain crafts that they've invested a lot of time and energy or money into. And they're likely to have like something like that in their life, where they have a lot of unexpected knowledge about things. Then Mercury in Aquarius. This is a really fun sign, I think, because that Aquarian nature almost reminds me of Mercury for some reason. We have that like logic, quick-wittedness, societally equipped kind of nature on both ends, but Aquarius is of course Uranus, which is a collective generational planet of change and evolution and wildness and chaos, mixed with Saturn co-rulership, which is like time and logic mixed with that. You have Aquarius in the sign of Mercury, this androgynous, communicative, collaborative, let's create type of energy. It's like, whoa, whatever that person is up to, like, get in the know, because the Mercury in Aquarius vibe is very innovative. It's very cutting edge. It's likely to have some level of entertainment or collective benefit to it. Whatever they're wanting to work on and talk about is something that they believe will be an important element of their community. So when it comes to bigger collaborations and working with a Mercury in Aquarius, they're highly like genius type of people on whatever they're dedicating themselves to. But as a Mercury in Aquarius person, I think from the outside looking in, it's more like you're just super interested. You're super aware of what's interesting. You do probably like things that are a little bit more weird or cutting edge, if you will, and that could be kind of lonely in a way. And then lastly, Mercury in Pisces is a very dreamy, somewhat illogical kind of placement. I think we're very empathic and psychic and intuitive. We're able to really show our weird side sometimes. We're very sensitive also, like people could say things and it could totally be like but the Mercury in Pisces might not always show that. So there's this sensitivity that allows you to be like a very likable person if you choose to use it that way. Secrecy is a big thing with the Mercury in Pisces, because the 12th house is very much about the subconscious, unconscious, things that happen after hours, up in here, up in the imagination, the fantasy world. So that can manifest a lot of ways through the lens of communication, because it can be like, let me share my bold dream with you, but also let me tell you my like dark secret, or tell me your secrets, or spilling things without always meaning to spill things in a way. So there's like this very shallow and this very deep element of the Mercury in Pisces, where there's a lot of multifacetedness, because Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is very elusive and beautiful and kind of siren-y. Like there can be an element of such beauty in the Mercury in Pisces, and such charmingness and even maybe seductiveness or like entrancing or hypnotic inclinations. But then there can also be this element of you have no idea what lurks beneath the surface of them, and that could be anything from what they're feeling in the moment to like things that they've gone through or things that they've seen, felt, witnessed, talked about before. Like they could have a whole plethora, well of knowledge of things outside of who you know them to be. So with that, I hope that you liked this video. I hope that this served you in some way. If there's something you'd like to share, please leave it in the comments below, because I know there's so much to say about every single Mercury sign, and this was just my little bit of insanity on all of it. So make sure that you've liked and subscribed. Just take what serves you from this video, leave the rest. It's cool, we're all different, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.